we had over 80 applicants for this position. Mr. Forche led a selection committee that had staff on it, and met with, I think 12 candidates were invited to be interviewed, 11 were interviewed, and then the selection committee brought it down to 3 candidates, and then there were further interviews, and Mr. Daly he's currently serving as both a teacher in Waltham High School in English and also in film and television production. I think it's a very interesting area. Has a master's degree in that.
Graduated from UMass Amherst.
And also has 3 master's degrees, and he's working on his doctorate now.
That's right.
He wants to work here?
And he wants to work
what
here.
we're paying?
He coordinates a very interesting program. It was a grant project called 21st Century Learning Centers, and it's targeted toward middle school. So he coordinates that program and has for a number of years. And it's an after-school program. Actually, over 250 middle school students participate in it at no cost, with all kinds of programs, from robotics to sports programs to art, music programs. Very, very interesting. So Mr. Daly coordinates that after-school program during the school year, and they also run another program during the summer, 4-week program during the summer. So we're certainly going to tap into that expertise to see whether or not we can offer a similar program here in North Reading.
Great.
So just a really delightful young man. Hopefully at our next school committee meeting, he's eager to start. I think he'd start tomorrow if I gave the go-ahead, but probably sometime next week. And I'll have him here at probably our next school committee meeting.
Okay.
And I'm sure the transcript will want to
We'll get
interview
a
him and get his picture in the paper so the kids can
Kids
get
will
to see
know
who
he is.
Mr. Daly is.
I'm just curious, you have 80 applications, and obviously, I mean, to survive the process, and he has no prior experience as a principal, I don't think, right?
Well, this is assistant principal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm saying, any prior experience as assistant principal, or anything like
No.
that? Now, what to you made him stand out above and beyond the rest? I mean, I know that program is obviously an impressive program, and it's impressive they graduated from UMass Amherst as well.
Of course.
But I'm just curious,
Extremely impressive.
when you have 80 applicants, how, you know?
Well, I wasn't on the selection committee. I really looked to the principal to make that recommendation. But speaking with Mr. Forche, I think it's a combination of different factors. One, it's that Mr. Daly took the initiative as a teacher to really take a look at another level, which is middle school. He works in the high school, and said this is an area that needs that kids in the middle don't oftentimes get disengaged from school, and so what can I do to be part of that? And this was an exciting grant opportunity.
At the middle school level.
At the middle school level, whereas his primary teaching is really English and writing. He also has worked in developing a writing program. It is at the high school level, but it's targeted toward improving student writing, which has led to improved achievement among students. So those are just 2 examples of where I see a person who's really taking a look at how can he improve our public schools, and I think we'll be the beneficiaries of that talent here.
Did you expect that many applications?
No, I did not.
I'm surprised there's that many looking to move.
Right.
It's a lot of
employment.
I have to say his certifications, I mean, he's moving towards superintendent, assistant superintendent certification, principal, assistant principal.
Oh,
Television and radio broadcasting, as David mentioned earlier, he's got preliminary certification for vocational education and television, radio broadcasting. So his experience, he brings a lot to the position that you could really see playing a role here at the middle school. So
Driving around today to the different schools, he was really impressed with the number of trees here in North Reading, and
He's
so among
city
other
boy.
things, this is a great community.
So in addition to the errors that Mel found, did anyone else have anything in the middle school book?
It's too exhausting for the high school.
No, and I read.
I had a question, but John's not here to answer.
Would it keep you from voting to support it?
No, it's just related to schedules, and I can ask him that later. It's
Great.
not, so it's not a big issue, no. I corrected word missing typos, and I can just give that to David.
Okay, great. And do you want to make a motion, Karen?
Move to put the middle school committee on.
discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
I do have something.
Okay.
In here, he's used an alternate bullying description,
The real one's in here, though.
but he's put an alternate one in that is more middle school
Right.
friendly. And I looked at in elementary, and we have the big one.
There should be a friendly one in there, too.
There will be a friendly one in there.
And it seems, I'm not criticizing the elementary one, I think that there perhaps ought to be some toning down so that the kids understand what they're doing. And
Is that in the works?
I thought that was a good move.
That actually should be in what you have on the elementary, and there will be a student-appropriate, age-appropriate statement about anti-bullying.
I guess
Okay.
that's kind of not necessarily on this motion, but kind of making the point that was in here, and I appreciated that.
Great, that's the point we have to drive home with kids. Okay. So we'll take a motion, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, none? Unanimous. And then we have the elementary handbook. First, is there any issues anyone had, any errors?
There's really no changes in it.
No.
I guess the one question I have, and this, one comment, this is somewhat related to Cliff's comment, is where it makes sense to standardize policies across mainly the middle and middle and elementary school. The thing at the high school, we have a lot of different policies. For example, the cell phone policy at the middle school, we might want to also have it at the elementary school, because there are 4th and 5th graders, and maybe even 3rd
Sure.
graders who may be using cell phones. Now, they don't have lockers at the elementary school, so that would be one area. But I think we ought to look, not this year, but in the future, at standardizing across handbooks where it makes sense for certain
Sure.
policies. And I do agree with Cliff that we should have a child-appropriate bullying paragraph in the elementary handbook. But other than that,
do principals have time to add that
They
before
will.
this goes to print? Okay. So with that taken care of, is there anything else? Okay, can we have a motion
Did we make the motion already?
on elementary?
No.
No, we
No,
didn't.
not for the elementary.
Make a motion to approve the elementary.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now the goals. Don't touch me. Nine. Go ahead, Tom.
Everything's done.
We have the superintendent's goals from the past year, 2008 to 2009. And this is the time that we get the report back from the superintendent on the goals that we approved last year and the action that he has taken throughout the year, and those that will need to be carried forward as they're new or continuing. So I'm gonna try to go through these. If at any point anyone has any questions or wants to ask anything of the superintendent, just feel free to jump in when appropriate, otherwise we'll just move through them. We won't need to comment on most of them unless they're new. 4 areas of the superintendent's goals are strategic planning, and there are 10 goals, communication, and there are 7 goals, policy, and there are 2 goals, and professional development, where there are 4. So I'm gonna go through the objectives under the goals. The first one under strategic planning is to implement a framework for district accountability and benchmarking. There are 2 continuing activities, but there is 1 new one that the superintendent will undertake in this upcoming year. And it is a need to develop a new strategic plan for the district. Given the extraordinary uncertainty of the changing economic climate, it is difficult to plan major change initiatives. David, what's your intention for putting together a new strategic committee?
Well, we've talked about this over the last 2 years, because the original strategic plan does need to be updated and probably rehauled. And part of my concern, my personal concern with this, is developing a strategic plan for the future of the school district is a huge challenge. And you never have a stable environment, but I do feel that the changing conditions that we witnessed this past year, and I would anticipate going forward to the next year, really caused me to step back and think about, is this time to make this kind of long-term investment in the future, given all of the uncertainty. On the other hand, it certainly, to go forward without a plan is also problematic as well. And you can't let obstacles get in the way. But I do think with what we're seeing with the governor's office to create readiness schools and readiness centers, with the governor's office proposing removing the cap on charter schools, with the infusion of stimulus money, and yet not clear really how much and when that money will be received. With the discussion about perhaps more regionalization, and this is part of the readiness plan, to really involve and engage a community on planning for North Reading without really having a lot of answers on what's happening outside of North Reading, you could end up being at real cross purposes here. So I think of a strategic plan as being a long-term, 10-year, where do we want to be, and where should we be, and how we're going to get there kind of action. We could certainly start by engaging the community, having conversations about where they want to see our schools go, but I think some of that is going to be impacted by what happens on the outside.
I agree, and I think we are going to really benefit from regionalization efforts. So I'm wondering if it's not something that we should be discussing with some of our neighboring school committees, or reports back through your superintendent's roundtable discussions to really kick that off.
I guess the other thing I would recommend, I don't think it hurts to have a committee that starts looking at the existing plan to see if there maybe are some things we can tweak, not build a new plan, or some things that are just, badly out of date or need some sort of revision. I'm not looking for a new plan, but maybe a committee just to review what we have.
That's a good place to start.
And I think hopefully within a year or two, we'll have, things will begin, as you say, there are a lot of things at the state and national level, things may be settled and we can, but that's what my recommendation would be in that area. And if David concurs, again, not looking for any huge result at the end, but just a review to make
Yep.
sure there aren't things in there that need to be fixed.
We should be getting a little bit ahead of the readiness school issue. A couple of times I've actually said we are plowing in charter school system, charter school district. Just some benefits there.
Yeah, you have to fund it.
Be positioning ourselves for the rules down the road so that we can quickly take advantage of any advantage that might be in store for a readiness school.
And when I came here as superintendent in 1994, the previous year, the former superintendent, Dr. Donahue, had organized not a strategic planning committee, but a committee to take a look at the conditions, not just in North Reading, but in education in general. Came up with some very insightful ideas and thoughts, and that was at the advent of education reform. So they were looking at total quality management, looking at other restructuring efforts, and maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That is a good idea.
Yeah.
Rather than redesigning
Right.
an entire strategic plan, take a look at where we are, what are possible conditions that we see affecting our schools, public schools in general, but specifically North Reading, in the coming, say, 3 to 5 years.
Even
Okay.
to the extent that we position ourselves so we're not adversely affected by those things that are coming
Mid-year
out.
cuts.
Because we're obviously doing something very, very right now, when we position ourselves within the state, and the state looks within the country, and Massachusetts looks within the world. We're very,